Okay, so today we're basically just going to be doing everything that we've been doing in reverse order. Okay, so instead of saying, okay, here's an equation, you find M and B, and then you give me a graph, it's going to go exactly backwards of that. Right? Here's the graph, or here's M and B. Now you write the equation. Okay? So there are going to be some that are super simple and super straightforward. For example, the super simple ones are where we are given info with M and B. Okay, this is our super simple, most basic points we should be guaranteed that we will get right. Okay, because if we are given M and B, all we need to do is plug into, oh, I shouldn't, slope-intercept form. So if I say, okay, class, let's write the equation of a line that has a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of 2. Okay, you're going to recognize, okay, I'm given M and B, so I need to use the formula or the equation y equals mx plus b. So again, we're just going in reverse order. Now instead of pulling the number out, we're going to put the number in. So we will say y equals, what number am I going to replace m with? 4. So y equals 4x plus 2. And that's your answer. You don't have to do anything with it. It's not asking you to graph it. It's just saying, what's the equation of the line? Okay, we just want to make sure that we recognize what we would do if the words were written out. That's usually the piece that trips up my students. Okay, so what if instead of it saying, okay, write the equation of the line where m is 4 and b is 2, what word does m represent? What does m stand for? Slope. And what does b stand for? The y-intercept, right? So instead we might see something that says, okay, write the equation of a line with a slope that's 1/2 and a y-intercept that's -6. Okay, sometimes my students are like, huh? Right? It's just the word version instead of the letter that's used to represent it. Okay, we should still look at this and recognize that we are given M and B, which means we are going to plug into slope-intercept form. So we would say y equals, what number? Lily? 1/2 x. Then what?
-6.
Are we okay with -6? Right, you could say plus -6, but the majority of the time we're going to take those two signs and clean them up and turn it into a -6. I would not count you wrong if you put plus -6. Okay, but you wouldn't see that, for example, in a multiple choice on a state test. You wouldn't see it on a multiple choice from me. Okay? Questions on that one? What if I said m equals 0 and b equals 4? What do we think about this one? Where'd your 0 go, Ellie? Why? Class, does anyone know sort of wording wise, why is that 0 gone?
It doesn't matter.
What do you mean by it doesn't matter, George?
It has no value.
Right, so if I say y equals 0x plus 4, I mean, this is the same thing, right? But this 0 holds no value that we need to actually identify, right? It makes it go away, it makes it turn into nothing. And so it's okay then for us to just write this as y equals 4. Again, same thing. If you wrote down y equals 0x plus 4, I wouldn't take off points. You're just not going to see that as a multiple choice option. Are we okay on that? I mean, that's literally as complex as that gets. Okay there? Okay, the next option that we're going to look at that is also simple to write equations of lines in. So option number 2 says that we can write equations of lines if we are given, we're going to deal with this find step in just a minute. If we're given or we can find an undefined slope. Class, do we remember which way an undefined slope line goes? Is it vertical or is it our horizontal one? It's our vertical, excellent, right? So a vertical line is an x equals line. So if we know that we have undefined slope, we are going to use x equals and then fill in a number. It's not an mx plus b, it's not a parenthesis, it literally is just x equals and then one number, right? That's what our vertical lines look like. So I'm writing this one out in words. I'm just presenting different formats of how you might read the info. Okay, so let's say the slope is undefined and the x-intercept is -3. So as soon as we look at this, we should recognize that we are not given m and b, right? B is a y-intercept. Okay, vertical lines don't cross the y-axis, right? They're crossing the x-axis. We should also recognize that we are given undefined slope. So when we recognize that we are given undefined slope, that says ding, 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 write down x equals. Okay, and what does x equal in this situation? -3. So the equation of our line would be x equals -3. Okay, what if I say, write the equation of a line with a slope that's undefined that passes through the point 2, 7. Are we given m and b on this?
Yeah.
Are we given a y-intercept? Are we given m and b? Is this B? No. So we're not in situation 1. Situation 2 says, are we given undefined slope? Are we given undefined slope? Yes. So So that tells us that we need to write down x equals. In this situation, what does x equal? Why did you say 2? Because it's the x value. This is an ordered pair, x comma y. And we want to use the x coordinate. And then my students say, well, what happens to that 7? Yep, nothing. It just doesn't matter. It's not important. It doesn't give us the info we need. So we want x equals 2. Are we okay there? Now, I sort of just ignored it. I wrote it down, but I sort of ignored it, right? That piece that says, not only are we given, but also could we find? Okay, and that means in these two situations, what happens if we're asked to write the equation of a line from a graph? Okay, so you know my rules. I'm really only giving you 2 that you have to write down. Okay, so write down these 2. One of them is super simple to write down. Let's say we are asked to write the equation of the following line. So I'll give you a second to sort of copy that down in your notes. Okay, so if we want to write the equation of a line from a graph, okay, everything we've sort of been looking at this point has had 2 very clear ordered pairs for us to find, right? Even in the ALEKS program, they're marked with 2 big red dots. Okay, I intentionally made my line thicker here, even though you can still notice it a little bit, because if you are asked to write the equation of a line from a graph, those points won't be clear. It will be your job to find them. Okay, and here are the steps that we are going to go through to find them. The first step is that we are going to look and see if we can find a clear y-intercept. Okay, and another way that I'm asking that question is it an integer? Does it cross at an easy number? Not does it cross the y-axis at 4.7325? Right, there's no way I could identify that number clearly. Okay, but if we look on the y-axis, do we see that this has a super obvious y-intercept? Okay, if we say yes it does, then we are going to use y equals mx plus b form. If it doesn't, we're not going to talk about that today. That gets a whole day of itself. Okay, so what does b equal on this problem? What's our y-intercept equal?
3.
3. So we know that our b equals 3. next job is then going to be to find the slope. We will find the slope the exact same way that we have been trying to find slope. Okay, to find slope, we count rise over run. So we are going to need another good point. Okay, when you're looking at Alex or something like that, the lines are perfect. So it's pretty easy to tell. My lines are not perfect, which is why I left it so you could see that dot a little bit better. Okay, but remember, to find a good point, we are looking for something that goes directly through a point. Not close to it, not halfway in between it, but directly through it. And then we'll count our rise over run. Okay, so how many do we go up? 2. How many do we go over?
3.
But we counted left, so what are we going to write instead of just 3? Negative 3. Right, so our slope is going to be negative 2/3. Right, we've already assessed on that. That's been on quiz number 3. So now that we have this info, we can just plug it into slope-intercept form, right? Just like we were just practicing. So we'll say, okay, that then tells us that y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. Are we okay with that? So you don't even necessarily need to draw a separate graph for this next one. I'm just drawing a separate graph so that you don't get confused as we're looking up here. Okay, that's not a perpendicular line. Okay, if we want to write the equation of this line, I tell my students this all the time. Okay, yes, you could go through a list of questions, you could decide, but in the long run, we should just know that a vertical line is an undefined slope. I mean, we should just look at this and know that a vertical line is undefined. Okay, we know that this means our slope is undefined. Yes, you could name 2 points. Yes, you could count rise over run. Yes, you could name the points and plug them into our slope form. Okay, but that's a lot of extra work for just going, oh, vertical is undefined. Okay, if a vertical line is undefined, what did I tell you we would write down? What was the formula we would use?
X equals.
X equals. So in this case, x equals what? 1, 2, negative 3.